The outlaw killed the Comanche warrior's wife. Then the Comanche warrior killed her entire tribe. The outlaw was a man people spoke about in whispers. He lived on the edge of the law, always moving, always looking for the next chance to take what he wanted. He had a reputation for being cruel, and his name made children shiver when they heard it. Yet to him, life was just a series of opportunities, and he never cared who he hurt along the way. He believed the world belonged to the strong, and he had decided long ago that he would be one of them. The frontier town where this story begins was small and quiet. It sat near the edge of Comanche land, where the open plains stretched for miles, and the wind seemed to carry stories from far away. The people there were simple folk, farmers, traders, and families trying to build a life in a place that was both beautiful and dangerous. They lived in wooden houses, raised animals, and worked hard. Most of them were careful not to travel too far from the safety of their homes, because they knew the world beyond was wild and unpredictable. The outlaw did not care about safety. He moved through the area like a shadow, watching, listening, waiting. He had a small group of men with him, each one chosen for their ability to do what was needed without asking questions. They were not soldiers or heroes. They were people who had learned that the world did not reward kindness. They believed that fear was power, and they used it like a weapon. One late afternoon, the outlaw and his group arrived near the town. The sky was wide and clear, the kind of sky that made you feel small and alone. The town was quiet, as if it could sense danger approaching. The people inside their homes did not know what was coming. They were busy with their daily tasks, unaware that their lives were about to change. The outlaw's plan was simple. He wanted food, supplies, and anything he could take. He did not plan to stay long. He wanted to strike fast, leave quickly, and vanish into the plains before anyone could stop him. His men moved with practiced silence, and they entered the town at the perfect moment when the sun was low and shadows were long. The first thing the outlaw did was take what he needed. He broke into a storage shed and grabbed bags of grain, barrels of flour, and jars of preserved food. He did not care who owned these things. To him, they were simply items that could keep his group alive. He did not consider the families who would wake up to empty shelves and broken locks. He did not think about the fear he was creating. The town was small enough that someone noticed. A neighbor saw the outlaw's men moving through the streets and quickly ran to warn others. Doors were locked, and people gathered inside their homes, hoping the danger would pass. But the outlaw was not interested in waiting. He wanted to make sure his presence was felt, so that the town would know it was not safe to oppose him. In the middle of the town was a small, open area where travelers sometimes stopped to rest. It was a place where people shared news and stories. On this day, a woman stood there, her face tired but calm. She was not from the town. She was from the Comanche tribe, and she had come to the edge of the settlement to trade. She carried a small bundle of items, things she had brought to exchange for supplies. She was careful, aware of the danger, but she believed she could handle herself.
The woman's name was not known to the townspeople, but she was respected in her community.
She was known for her strength and kindness. She was a person who could remain calm even when the world seemed to be falling apart. She was also the wife of a Comanche warrior, a man who was respected and feared in equal measure. The warrior was known for his skill in tracking and his loyalty to his people. He was not a man who sought conflict, but he would not back down when he was pushed. The outlaw saw the woman and made a choice. He did not see a person. He saw a chance to send a message. He wanted to show that he could do whatever he wanted, that he was not afraid of the Comanche or anyone else. He believed that by harming someone close to the tribe, he could force them to respond and prove that they were not strong enough to stop him. The outlaw approached the woman with a cold smile. He spoke to her in a harsh tone, demanding her belongings. The woman tried to stay calm. She offered him what she had, hoping to avoid trouble. But the outlaw was not satisfied. He wanted more than supplies. He wanted control. The woman's calmness did not last long. The outlaw's anger grew, and his actions became more dangerous. He treated her as if she was nothing, as if her life did not matter. The woman tried to move away, to find a way out of the situation, but the outlaw blocked her path. His men stood nearby, watching, ready to support him. The woman did not fight. She knew that fighting would only make things worse. She tried to speak to him, to explain that she meant no harm. She tried to show him respect, to appeal to his better side, if he had one. But the outlaw did not listen. He was not interested in words. He was interested in power. In a sudden moment, the outlaw acted in a way that changed everything. He hurt the woman and left her there, alone and broken. The act was not only cruel, it was a deliberate choice meant to cause pain and fear. The outlaw did not care about the consequences. He believed that no one would come after him, that the world would continue to be his to take from. The townspeople who saw what happened were shocked. They had never witnessed such cruelty. Some of them were too scared to move. Others wanted to help, but did not know how. The woman was not from their community, and they feared that intervening would only bring more danger. The outlaw's men moved quickly, gathering the supplies and preparing to leave. The woman's fate was not only a personal tragedy, it was a symbol of what was happening in the region. The frontier was a place where people were constantly pushed to the edge. The Comanche people had already suffered much. They had watched their land shrink, their traditions challenged, and their families torn apart by conflict. They had tried to live peacefully, but the world around them was full of people who did not respect their lives. When the warrior returned home and learned what had happened, he felt a pain that could not be described. He was not only angry, he was broken. He had lost someone he loved deeply, someone who had been a part of his life for many years. The pain was not just personal, it was a wound to his heart and his pride. The tribe's traditions taught him that a person's honor was tied to the safety of their family. The loss of his wife was not something he could ignore. The warrior gathered himself and went to the council. The elders listened to him quietly. They understood his pain. They also understood the danger. They knew that if the warrior acted alone, the consequences could be severe. The settlers might respond with violence, and the conflict could grow beyond anyone's control. The tribe had already lost too much. They had learned that retaliation could lead to more suffering. But the warrior was not a man who could ignore such a loss. He had always been a leader, and he knew that if he did not act, he would be seen as weak. He also knew that his wife's spirit would not rest unless justice was served. He was torn between his duty to protect his people and his desire to honor the memory of his wife. The council spoke carefully. They reminded him that violence would only bring more violence. They warned him that the settlers were not the only danger. The outlaws group could be supported by other groups, and the situation could spiral out of control. The elders wanted to find a way to avoid further bloodshed. They hoped for peace, even if peace seemed impossible. The warrior listened, but his heart was too heavy. He thanked the elders and left the council. He walked alone into the plains, where the wind blew across the land like a whisper. He felt the emptiness of his life without his wife. He thought about her kindness, her strength, and the life they had shared. He thought about the future he would never have. As he walked, he made a decision. He would find the outlaw and make sure he could never hurt anyone again. He knew it was a dangerous path. He knew it could cost him his life. But he believed it was the only way to honor his wife and protect his people. He knew that he could not undo what had happened, but he could prevent it from happening again. The warrior prepared for the journey. He gathered supplies, sharpened his tools, and studied the land. He used the skills he had learned since childhood: tracking, patience, and survival. He was determined to find the outlaw, even if it took him across the entire frontier. He did not know where the outlaw would be, but he believed that the outlaw's actions would leave a trail. He trusted his instincts and his training. The warrior's people watched him leave with a mixture of fear and respect. They knew he was not a man who could be stopped easily. They also knew that his mission was not only for himself, it was for the entire tribe. If he failed, the tribe could face even greater danger. If he succeeded, they might find some sense of justice. The outlaw, on the other hand, did not care about the warrior or his tribe. He believed that no one could touch him. He had always believed that the world belonged to people like him. He had never imagined that his actions would lead to someone like the warrior tracking him down. He continued to move through the frontier, taking what he wanted and leaving fear behind. But the warrior's decision had already changed the course of events. The outlaw had sparked something he could not control. He had awakened a force that was driven by loss and duty. The frontier was about to witness a conflict that would not be easily forgotten. And so the story began, not with a battle, but with a moment of cruelty that showed how fragile life could be on the edge of the world. The outlaw had taken something precious, and the warrior had decided that justice would not be forgotten. The plains were quiet, but the air was filled with tension. The next steps were uncertain, but one thing was clear: the warrior would not stop until he had found the outlaw, and the outlaw would not escape the consequences of his actions. The warrior returned to the camp with a heavy heart. The sun was low in the sky, and the air felt colder than usual. It seemed as if the land itself was grieving with him. The people of the tribe were gathered in small groups, talking softly. Their voices were quiet and full of sadness. Everyone knew something terrible had happened, but the details were not clear yet. The warrior walked through the camp, and the faces of his people showed the pain they felt. They were not only sad for the loss of his wife, but also afraid of what might happen next. The warrior's wife had been a strong presence in the tribe. She was known for her calm nature and her ability to help others. She cared for the children, taught them songs and stories, and helped the elders with their tasks. She was the kind of person who brought peace to the camp, and her absence was felt by everyone. The warrior had always been proud of her, and now he felt a deep emptiness. The loss was not something he could simply accept and move on from. The elders gathered around him. They did not speak loudly, but their eyes held the weight of the situation. The warrior sat with them, and they began to speak in a calm, steady way. They understood the warrior's pain, but they also understood the danger that lay ahead. They had lived through many conflicts and knew that anger could lead to destruction. They had seen families torn apart and tribes forced to move because of fights that began with small things. One elder spoke first. He reminded the warrior that the tribe had always tried to avoid conflict with the settlers. They had learned that violence only caused more violence. They had tried to live peacefully, but peace was hard to keep when others did not respect their lives. The elder explained that the tribe needed to stay strong and calm and not let anger control their decisions. Another elder spoke next. He reminded the warrior that the tribe had rules and traditions. The warrior had a duty to protect his people, but he also had a duty to follow the tribe's way of life. He said that the tribe could not act without thinking, because a wrong move could bring disaster. The elder suggested that they should send messengers to nearby tribes and leaders, asking for advice and support. He believed that wisdom could be found in others who had faced similar situations. The warrior listened carefully. He did not argue, but his heart was heavy. He knew the elders were trying to protect the tribe, but he also felt that time was slipping away. He knew that the outlaw had taken something precious from him, and he wanted to act quickly. He wanted justice, and he wanted it now. He was torn between the calm wisdom of the elders and the burning anger inside him. The warrior stood up and spoke. He did not shout or scream. He spoke with a quiet strength. He told the elders that he understood their concerns, but he could not simply wait. He said that the outlaw had taken his wife, and that the tribe deserved to know that such actions would not go unanswered. He said that if the tribe did nothing, it would be seen as weakness. He said that he could not live with the thought that the outlaw might continue to harm others. The elders looked at him with respect, but also with worry. They knew that the warrior was a strong leader, and they knew that his words came from a deep place of pain. They also knew that his decision could change the future of the tribe. The elder who had spoken first placed a hand on the warrior's shoulder and said, "We will not stop you from seeking justice, but we ask you to be careful. We ask you to think of the people, not only your own pain." The warrior nodded. He understood. He also understood that the elders were trying to protect him from the weight of revenge. But the warrior could not ignore his feelings. He knew that his wife would not want him to become a person driven only by anger. He remembered her calm voice and the way she always tried to find peaceful solutions. He tried to think of her, and in that moment, he felt a new kind of strength. He realized that justice could be pursued without losing himself. The warrior made a decision. He would seek the outlaw, but he would do it in a way that would not bring unnecessary harm to his people. He would not act recklessly. He would track the outlaw carefully, and he would try to bring him to justice. He would not allow his anger to control him. He would use his skills, his patience, and his intelligence. The warrior began preparing for the journey. He gathered his tools, checked his supplies, and spoke to the younger men in the tribe. He asked them to stay safe and to take care of the camp. He told them that he would return, but he did not know when. The younger men looked at him with concern. They admired his strength, but they also feared for his life. They knew the outlaw was dangerous, and they knew the frontier was filled with risks. The warrior also took time to say goodbye to the children. He spoke to them softly, telling them to be brave and to take care of each other. He told them that their mother would always be remembered and that her spirit would stay with the tribe. The children listened quietly, not fully understanding the full meaning of the words, but they felt the sadness in the warrior's voice. They knew something important was happening, and they felt the loss deeply. The next morning, the warrior left the camp. The sun rose slowly, casting a warm light across the plains. The land looked peaceful, but the warrior knew that the world was not peaceful. He walked with purpose, moving away from the camp and into the open land. He knew that the outlaw could be anywhere, but he also knew that the outlaw would leave signs. The warrior had learned to read the land like a book. He could tell where someone had been by the marks on the ground, the broken branches, and the disturbed soil. As he traveled, he thought about his wife. He remembered her smile, her laughter, and the way she cared for others. He thought about the life they had built together. He thought about the children and the future they would not have. His heart ached, but he used that pain as fuel. He focused on his mission, determined to find the outlaw and make sure he could not harm anyone else. Days passed, and the warrior moved farther from his camp. He crossed rivers and walked through thick grass. He watched the sky and the land, always looking for signs. He used his knowledge of the terrain to stay hidden, knowing that the outlaws group might be watching for him. He moved quietly, like a shadow, He knew that the journey would not be easy, but he was determined. During his travels, the warrior saw other signs of trouble. He saw a small group of settlers who had been attacked by a band of thieves. He saw a farmer's field that had been burned. He saw people living in fear. These sights made him realize that the outlaw was not the only problem. The world was full of people who believed that taking what they wanted was acceptable. The warrior felt a new kind of anger, and anger at the injustice of the world. Yet, he did not lose his focus. He continued to track the outlaw, following the trail as carefully as he could. He knew that if he rushed, he could make mistakes. He knew that patience was one of his greatest strengths. He also knew that his wife would want him to act with wisdom, not only strength. One night, as the warrior camped near a small stream, he saw something that gave him hope. He noticed fresh tracks in the mud. The tracks were from horses, and they looked like they had been made recently. The warrior knew that the outlaws group was nearby. He felt his heart beat faster, but he did not let his fear show. He studied the tracks carefully, noting their direction. He realized that the outlaw had moved toward a nearby settlement. The warrior stayed quiet that night, watching the land. He waited until dawn, then continued his journey. He knew that he was getting closer. He also knew that the danger was increasing. The outlaw was not alone, and the warrior could be walking into a trap. But he was determined to continue. He could not turn back now. As the warrior moved closer to the settlement, he noticed the signs of life. He saw smoke rising from chimneys, and he heard voices in the distance. He knew that he was approaching the place where the outlaws group was hiding. He felt a mix of fear and determination. He knew that the next step would be the most difficult part of his journey. He paused on a small hill and looked down at the settlement. It was a small place, similar to the one where the tragedy began. The warrior could see people moving, unaware of the danger that was coming. He could see the outlaws group moving quickly, preparing to leave. The warrior knew he had to act carefully. He could not rush into the settlement and risk being seen. He needed a plan. The warrior sat quietly and thought. He considered his options. He could wait and observe, or he could act quickly. He decided to wait. He knew that the outlaw would not stay long. He would move on soon, and the warrior needed to catch him before he disappeared again. As the sun rose higher, the warrior continued to watch. He saw the outlaws group prepare to leave. He saw them gather their supplies and mount their horses. The warrior knew that this was his chance. He took a deep breath, steadying himself. He felt the weight of his mission, but he also felt the strength of his purpose. He began to move down the hill, careful not to make noise. He kept to the shadows, using the land to hide his presence. He was getting closer to the outlaw, and he knew that the next moment could change everything. The warrior's journey was far from over, but he was closer than he had ever been. He was moving toward a moment that would decide the future of his people. He was driven by grief, but he was guided by wisdom. He had chosen to seek justice, not revenge. He had chosen to protect his people, even if it meant risking his own life. And as he moved forward, the warrior carried his wife's memory with him. He carried her strength, her kindness, and her calm spirit. He promised himself that he would not let her death be in vain. He promised that he would find the outlaw and make sure the world knew that her life mattered. He moved through the land carefully, keeping his body low and his steps quiet. The wind blew softly, and the grass bent as he passed. He knew the area well, but every place still felt dangerous. The warrior understood that danger did not always come from a person with a weapon. Sometimes it came from the wrong choice, the wrong step, or the wrong moment. He kept his mind calm and focused. He was not just hunting a man. He was carrying the memory of his wife in his heart. The settlement below was waking up. Smoke rose from chimneys, and people began to move around, doing their morning tasks. The warrior watched from a distance, and he noticed something that made his heart tighten. The outlaws group was leaving, and they were moving fast. The outlaw had not stayed long, as if he knew he was being followed. This made the warrior feel both angry and worried. If the outlaw was aware of him, the warrior knew he needed to be even more careful. The warrior did not rush. He knew that rushing could lead to mistakes. He remembered the elders' words about wisdom and patience. He knew that if he acted too quickly, he could lose everything. He waited, watching the group move away. He observed their path and the direction they were taking. The trail they left behind was clear, and the warrior could read it like a book. The outlaws group moved toward a nearby ridge. They were traveling in a straight line, as if they were confident and not afraid. The warrior could see that they were not expecting anyone to follow them. This gave him a small feeling of hope. He knew that if he followed carefully, he might catch up to them without being noticed. He followed their trail, keeping a safe distance. He used the natural cover of the land, trees, rocks, and tall grass, to hide his movement. The days were long and the sun was strong, but the warrior did not stop. He knew that he could not afford to rest for long. He had a mission, and the mission was not over. During his journey, he noticed signs that the outlaws group had caused trouble in other places too. He saw a small camp that had been abandoned quickly. He saw a few broken items, as if people had left in a hurry. He saw the marks of fear in the land. The warrior felt a deeper sadness. He realized that the outlaw was not only a danger to his own tribe, but to many people. The world seemed to be full of people who did not care about the harm they caused. This realization made the warrior feel even more determined. He understood that his mission was not just about revenge or justice for his wife. It was about protecting others from the same kind of pain. He knew that if he could stop the outlaw, he might prevent more families from suffering. This thought gave him strength. One evening, as the warrior rested near a small stream, he heard the sound of horses in the distance. He stopped moving immediately and listened carefully. The sound was not close, but it was clear. The warrior stood still, waiting. He knew that the outlaws' group was near. He also knew that the outlaw would not travel alone. He had men with him, and those men were likely ready to fight if they were threatened. The warrior thought about his next move. He could try to follow them and wait for a moment when they were alone. Or he could confront them directly. He knew that confronting them directly could be dangerous. He was outnumbered. But he also knew that waiting too long could allow the outlaw to escape again. He had to choose carefully. He decided to follow them quietly. He did not want to create a situation where innocent people could get hurt. He knew that the outlaws group might pass through a town or a settlement, and if a conflict happened there, it could affect many people. The warrior did not want that. He wanted to find the outlaw and stop him without causing harm to others. The next day, the warrior saw the outlaws group from a distance. They were traveling through a narrow path between two hills. The path was a good place to observe them without being seen. The warrior watched them carefully. He noticed that the outlaw was riding at the front, looking confident. The other men followed, carrying their supplies and keeping an eye on the land. The warrior saw that the outlaws group was tired. They were moving fast, but their faces showed strain. This made the warrior feel that the time to act was coming soon. He knew that people who are tired make mistakes. They become less careful. The warrior waited for the right moment. He followed them for a few more miles until they reached a small open area. The outlaws' group stopped there for a short break. They set down their packs and began to eat. The warriors stayed hidden behind a rock, watching. He could see their faces clearly. He could see the outlaw's expression. The outlaw looked relaxed, as if he believed he was safe. This made the warrior feel a cold anger inside. The outlaw had caused so much pain, and he was still acting as if nothing mattered. The warrior knew that he could not wait much longer. He had to decide what to do. He thought about the elder's words again. He thought about his wife's calm voice. He remembered that she would not want him to become a person who only lived for anger. He wanted to act with strength, but also with respect for his own values. The warrior made a plan. He would move closer, but he would not attack immediately. He wanted to speak to the outlaw first, to let him know that he was being held accountable for his actions. He believed that justice should be clear. He wanted the outlaw to understand that what he had done was wrong, and that the world would not forget. He waited until the outlaw's group seemed more relaxed. Then he moved quietly through the grass. He stayed low, using the land to hide him. The warrior's heart beat faster, but he kept his face calm. He approached the edge of the open area, close enough to see the outlaw clearly. The outlaw noticed something. He looked around, sensing that someone was near. He stood up, his eyes scanning the land. The other men also looked up, their expressions turning serious. The warrior knew that he had been seen. He stepped forward slowly, making sure not to make sudden movements. He wanted to show that he was not there to cause harm to innocent people. The outlaw spoke first. His voice was harsh and confident. He asked, "Who are you? What do you want?" The warrior looked at him and spoke calmly. He said, "I am the one whose wife you took. I have come to bring justice." The outlaw laughed, as if the warrior's words were a joke. He said, "You think you can stop me? You are alone. You are weak." The warrior did not respond with anger. He kept his voice steady. He said, "I am not weak. I am not alone. I carry the strength of my people and the memory of my wife." The outlaw's men began to move, as if they were ready to attack. The warrior saw this and knew that the situation was becoming dangerous. He had hoped to avoid a fight, but it seemed that the outlaw was not willing to listen. The warrior realized that he might have to act to protect himself. The warrior stood firm. He did not move forward, but he did not step back either. He wanted the outlaw to know that he was serious. The outlaw's men were tense, and the air felt heavy. The warrior could feel the danger around him. Then, the outlaw made a sudden move. He reached for his weapon, as if he wanted to threaten the warrior. The warrior reacted quickly. He moved to the side, avoiding the threat. He did not want to harm anyone unless he had to, but he also knew that he had to protect himself. The outlaw's men were now fully alert. They surrounded the warrior, closing the distance. The warrior realized that he was outnumbered. He also realized that the outlaw was not interested in talking. The outlaw only wanted to show that he was in control. The warrior thought about his wife again. He thought about the life they had shared. He thought about the future that had been taken from him. He felt a deep sadness, but he also felt a clear sense of purpose. He knew that he had to stand strong. The warrior took a step forward, raising his hand slightly to show that he did not want to harm anyone unless forced to. He said, "I will not fight if you do not force me, but I will not leave without justice." The outlaw looked at him with a cold expression. He said, "Justice? You think the world works like that? The world is for those who take. The warrior did not reply. He understood that the outlaw had already made his choice. The outlaw was not a person who respected life. The warrior knew that he had to act, and act carefully. The situation was tense. The outlaw's men were ready to attack. The warrior stood in the middle, alone, facing a group of men who had caused pain and fear. The warrior felt the weight of the moment. He knew that this moment could change everything. He took a deep breath, and then he moved with calm determination. He did not rush. He did not panic. He acted with the steady strength of someone who knew what he had to do. The warrior made his move, not just for himself, but for the memory of his wife and the future of his people. The moment was not easy, but it was clear. The warrior had chosen his path, and he would follow it to the end. And in that moment, the frontier held its breath, waiting to see what would happen next. The warrior moved forward with a calm and steady step. He did not rush, and he did not show fear. His eyes were fixed on the outlaw, and his body was ready for what might come. He knew that this moment would decide everything. He also knew that he had to stay strong, because if he showed weakness, the outlaw and his men might try to harm him or run away. The warrior's heart was heavy, but his mind was clear. He had come too far to turn back now. The outlaw's men surrounded him, making a circle. They were tense and ready for action. Their faces showed anger and fear. They did not understand why a single warrior would come to face them. They believed they were powerful, and they believed that no one could stop them. They had seen people run away before, and they had taken what they wanted. But now, they were facing someone who did not back down. The outlaw stood in front of his men. He looked at the warrior with a cold expression. His voice was low and harsh as he spoke.
"You are brave," he said.
"But you are alone. You should go back to your people." "This is not your place," the warrior replied calmly. "I am not here to fight for power. I am here to bring justice. Your actions have caused pain, and you must answer for them." The outlaw laughed as if the warrior's words were not important. He looked around at his men and he said, "He speaks like he has hope, but he will learn that hope does not win in this world." The men shifted their weight, ready to attack. The warrior could feel the tension in the air. He knew that the situation could become dangerous at any moment. He also knew that he had to stay focused. He had to use his skills, his speed, and his knowledge of the land to survive. The warrior took a deep breath and looked around. He saw the rocks, the trees, and the path that led away from the area. He noticed a small gap between two rocks that could be used as a hiding place. He also noticed that the outlaw's men were not paying full attention. They were confident, and confidence can make people careless. The warrior decided to use this moment. He stepped quickly toward the gap, moving in a way that made the men think he was trying to escape. The outlaw shouted, "Stop him!" The men moved quickly to block him, but the warrior was already in motion. He slipped into the gap between the rocks, and the men could not reach him. The warrior was now hidden, and he could see the outlaw and his men clearly. He could also see the path they were using. He knew that if he wanted to catch the outlaw, he had to act smart. The outlaw's men searched for the warrior, but they could not find him. They became angry and confused. They started to argue among themselves, blaming each other for the situation. The outlaw was also frustrated. He did not understand how a single man could vanish so quickly. He looked around, trying to find the warrior, but the warrior was hidden well. The warrior stayed quiet and waited. He knew that the men would not stay calm for long. Their anger would grow, and they would make mistakes. The warrior also knew that the outlaw might leave soon. If the outlaw left, the warrior would lose his chance. He needed to act, before that happened. After a few minutes, the outlaw decided to leave. He could not wait any longer. He called his men and told them to move. The men gathered their supplies and mounted their horses. They were ready to leave, and the warrior knew that he had to act now. The warrior waited until the outlaw was close enough. He then stepped out from his hiding place and stood in front of the outlaw again. The outlaw was surprised. His eyes widened and he shouted, "How did you get here?" The warrior did not answer. He simply looked at the outlaw and spoke with a calm voice. "You cannot run from what you have done," he said. "You must face the consequences." The outlaw's men moved forward, but the warrior was ready. He moved quickly, using his skill and speed. He fought with the strength of someone who had nothing left to lose. The warrior did not fight out of anger. He fought out of a sense of duty. He wanted to stop the outlaw and protect others from harm. The battle was not long. The warrior moved with a steady rhythm, avoiding the men's attacks and using the land to his advantage. He managed to defeat some of the men, and the others started to retreat. The outlaw realized that he was losing control. He could see that the warrior was not going to stop. The outlaw's face showed fear for the first time. He had never faced someone like this before. He had always been able to take what he wanted. He had always been able to make others afraid. But now, he was facing a person who would not back down. The outlaw tried to escape, but the warrior was close. He chased him for a short distance, and the outlaw stumbled. The warrior caught up to him and held him firmly. The outlaw looked at the warrior with a face full of anger and fear. He realized that he had been defeated. The warrior spoke quietly. "Your actions have caused pain," he said. "You must answer for them." The outlaw did not speak. He knew that he had been caught. He knew that he could not escape. The warrior looked at him, and for a moment, he felt a strange feeling. He felt a small sense of relief, as if the burden on his heart was becoming lighter. But he also felt sadness. He knew that his wife was still gone. Nothing could bring her back. The warrior made a decision. He did not kill the outlaw right away. He wanted the outlaw to understand the pain he had caused. He wanted the outlaw to feel the weight of his actions. The warrior tied the outlaw's hands and made him sit down. He looked at him and said, "You will be taken back to the tribe. The elders will decide what happens next." The outlaw's eyes widened. He could not believe that he was being taken to the tribe. He had expected to be punished by a group of men, but he had not expected the tribe's wisdom to be involved. He felt a strange fear, not just for his life, but for the meaning of what was happening. The warrior began to lead the outlaw back toward the tribe. The outlaw walked slowly, his head down. The warrior walked beside him, not with anger, but with a calm strength. He knew that the journey back would not be easy. The outlaw's men might try to attack. The warrior knew that he had to stay alert. As they walked, the warrior thought about the future. He thought about the elders and the decisions they would make. He thought about his wife and the life that had been taken from him. He thought about the world and how unfair it could be. He felt a deep sadness, but he also felt a small sense of hope. He hoped that the tribe would make a wise decision and that justice would be served. The journey back to the tribe was long. The warrior and the outlaw traveled through the land, passing through open fields and small forests. The warrior kept the outlaw close, watching for any sign of danger. He knew that the outlaw's men could appear at any moment. He also knew that the tribe needed to be protected. The warrior reached the camp at night. The tribe was waiting. The elders gathered around, and the people watched quietly. They could see the outlaw, tied and held by the warrior. The camp was silent. Everyone knew that something important was happening. The warrior brought the outlaw to the center of the camp. He spoke to the elders and explained what had happened. He told them about the outlaw's actions, and he told them about his decision to bring the outlaw back alive. The elders listened carefully, their faces serious. They understood that the warrior had acted with wisdom and strength. The elder who had spoken before stood up and spoke again. He said, "We will decide what must be done. We will not act with anger. We will act with wisdom. But we must also protect our people." The people in the camp nodded. They were tired of violence. They wanted peace. They wanted to live without fear. But they also knew that justice must be served. The outlaw had caused pain, and he could not be allowed to hurt others again. The elders spoke with the warrior and the people. They discussed what should be done. They thought about the safety of the tribe, and they thought about the meaning of justice. They knew that the outlaw's actions had crossed a line. They knew that if they did not act, it could send a message that such actions were allowed. The warrior watched the elders carefully. He felt a mix of emotions. He felt hope that the tribe would make a wise decision. He also felt fear that the decision could lead to more violence. He did not know what the future would hold, but he knew that he had done what he could. He had brought the outlaw back, and now the tribe would decide what was right. The camp remained quiet that night. The fire burned low, and the stars shone brightly in the sky. The warrior sat near the fire, thinking about everything that had happened. He thought about his wife and the life he had lost. He thought about the journey and the choices he had made. He felt a deep sadness, but he also felt a sense of peace. He knew that he had acted with strength and wisdom, and as the night continued, the warrior waited for the elder's decision. He knew that the future was uncertain, but he also knew that he had taken a step toward justice. He had not allowed anger to control him. He had chosen to act with respect for his people and for the memory of his wife. The next day would bring a decision that would shape the future of the tribe. The warrior could only wait and hope that the path he had chosen would lead to peace, not more pain. The air felt heavy, like the whole tribe was holding its breath. People moved slowly, and their faces showed sadness and worry. The elders gathered in a circle, and the warrior sat near them, waiting. The outlaw was still tied, sitting on the ground with his head down. He looked tired and scared. He knew that he was not in a place where he could escape. The elder who had spoken before stood up and spoke calmly. He said, "We have listened to the warrior. We have heard what the outlaw has done. Now we must decide what is right for our people." The elder's voice was steady, but everyone could feel the weight of the moment. This decision was not only about the outlaw. It was about the future of the tribe and how they would live in a world full of danger. The elders talked for a long time. They did not rush. They wanted to think carefully. They remembered the old teachings and the ways of their people. They also remembered the pain the tribe had already experienced. They knew that the world outside their land was not kind. They knew that the settlers and other groups could be cruel. They also knew that the tribe had to protect itself. Some elders said that the outlaw should be punished in a way that would stop him from hurting anyone again. They believed that if the outlaw was allowed to live, he might return and cause more harm. They said that the tribe needed to send a message that such actions would not be accepted. Other elders spoke about the importance of wisdom and mercy. They said that violence should not be the first answer. They believed that the tribe should try to find a way to make the outlaw understand the harm he had caused. They thought that the outlaw could be used as a lesson for others. They wanted to avoid actions that could bring more trouble to the tribe. The warrior listened to the elders. He felt a deep sadness. He wanted justice, But he also wanted peace. He remembered his wife and the way she always tried to bring calm to difficult situations. He thought about her words and her kindness. He wondered what she would want him to do. He wanted to honor her memory, but he also did not want to become someone who only knew anger. The elders continued to speak. They discussed the possibility of sending the outlaw away from their land, far from the tribe. They said that if the outlaw was forced to leave, he might not be able to cause harm again. They also discussed the idea of bringing the outlaw to other tribes or leaders who could handle the situation in a way that would keep the tribe safe. But then one elder spoke in a way that made everyone fall silent. He said, "We must think about the meaning of what has happened. The outlaw killed a woman who was part of our tribe. This is not just an attack on one person. It is an attack on our people. If we let this go, we let the world think that our lives do not matter." The warrior felt a sharp pain in his chest. He understood what the elder meant. The tribe had already suffered many losses. They had already lost land, homes, and families. They had already been pushed to the edge. The elder's words made the warrior feel the truth of the situation. He knew that the tribe needed to show strength, not just for themselves, but for their future. The discussion grew more intense. The elders began to talk about the possibility of taking stronger action. They spoke about protecting the tribe and making sure that no one would harm them again. They spoke about the need to show that the tribe would not be weak. The warrior could feel the anger rising in the camp. He knew that the people were tired of living in fear. The warrior stood up. He spoke quietly, but his voice was strong. He said, "I understand your pain. I understand the need for strength. But I also know that anger can lead to more pain. We must think carefully about what we do. If we act only out of anger, we could lose the very thing we are trying to protect." The warrior looked around at the people. He saw the sadness in their eyes. He saw the fear in their faces. He knew that the tribe was at a turning point. He knew that their decision would shape their future. He also knew that his own heart was torn. The outlaw, still tied, looked up at the warrior. He spoke quietly. He said, "I did what I did because I believed I could. I did not think about your people. I did not think about the harm. I did not think about you." His voice was full of regret, but it did not sound sincere. The warrior could tell that the outlaw was not truly sorry. He could tell that the outlaw still believed the world belonged to people like him. The elder who had spoken earlier looked at the outlaw and said, "Your words do not change what you have done. Your actions have consequences. You have taken a life. You have caused pain. You have brought fear." The outlaw did not respond. He looked down again. The silence in the camp grew heavier. The elders spoke again, and the decision was made. They decided that the outlaw's actions could not be forgiven. They believed that if the outlaw was allowed to live, it would be a sign of weakness. It would show that the tribe's people could be harmed without consequences. They believed that the only way to protect the tribe was to take strong action. The warrior felt a deep sadness. He understood the decision, but he also felt the weight of it. He had hoped for a different outcome. He had hoped that justice could be found without bringing more harm. But he also knew that the tribe needed to feel safe. He knew that the world was not kind and that sometimes strong actions were necessary. The elders announced their decision to the people. They spoke clearly and calmly so everyone could understand. They said that the outlaw would be removed from the tribe's land and would not be allowed to harm anyone again. They also said that the tribe would take steps to protect themselves and their families. The people in the camp listened. Some nodded in agreement. Others looked sad. The warrior felt the sadness too. He thought about his wife and the life that was taken. He thought about the pain the tribe had endured. He knew that the decision was not only about the outlaw, it was about the tribe's survival. The warrior prepared to carry out the elder's decision. He untied the outlaw and led him away from the camp. The outlaw walked slowly, still afraid. The warrior walked beside him, not with anger, but with a calm strength. He knew that the path ahead would not be easy. The warrior and the outlaw traveled for many days. They moved through the land, away from the tribe's territory. The warrior kept a close watch on the outlaw, making sure he did not escape. The outlaw did not resist. He seemed to understand that there was no way out. He seemed to understand that his actions had led him to this moment. As they traveled, the warrior thought about the future. He thought about the tribe and the world. He wondered if the tribe would be safe. He wondered if the decision would bring peace. He wondered if his wife's memory would ever be honored in the way he wanted. The warrior also thought about the outlaw. He wondered if the outlaw would ever learn. He wondered if the outlaw would ever understand the harm he caused. He wondered if the outlaw would ever feel true regret. The journey continued, and the warrior and the outlaw reached a place far from the tribe. The warrior stopped and looked at the outlaw. He spoke softly. "This is where you will stay. You will not be allowed to return. You will not be able to harm anyone again." The outlaw looked at the warrior and said, "You think you have won, but the world is still the same. People like me will always exist." The warrior looked at him calmly and said, "Maybe, but not here. Not anymore." The warrior turned and began to walk away. The outlaw watched him go, and for the first time he looked truly alone. The warrior did not look back. He did not show anger or satisfaction. He simply walked away, carrying the weight of what had happened. The warrior returned to the tribe, and the camp welcomed him. The people were tired, but they were also relieved. They felt a sense of safety, knowing that the outlaw was gone. They knew that the tribe had taken a strong step to protect themselves. The warrior stood before the elders and the people. He spoke softly. He said, "We have made a decision. We have chosen a path. Now we must move forward. We must honor the memory of those we have lost. We must protect our people. We must live with strength and wisdom." The people listened. They felt the truth in his words. They knew that the journey ahead would not be easy. They knew that the world would continue to be dangerous, but they also knew that they were not alone. They had each other. They had their traditions. They had their strength. The warrior returned to his place in the camp. He sat quietly, thinking about his wife. He thought about her calm voice, her kindness, and her strength. He felt the pain in his heart, but he also felt a sense of peace. He knew that he had done what he could. He had brought justice, and he had protected his people. The days passed, and the camp slowly returned to its normal life. The children played, the elders spoke, and the people worked. But the memory of the warrior's wife remained. The tribe remembered her with respect. They told stories about her, and they kept her memory alive. The warrior continued to live with the pain of his loss, but he also lived with a sense of purpose. He knew that the world would always be full of danger, but he also knew that he could choose how to respond. He could choose strength, wisdom, and honor. And so the story ended not with a celebration, but with a quiet understanding. The tribe had made a difficult choice. They had chosen to protect their people. They had chosen to stand strong. The warrior had lost his wife, but he had not lost his spirit. He had learned that justice was not always simple, but it was necessary. The frontier continued to be a place of danger, but the tribe continued to live. They continued to protect each other. They continued to honor their traditions. And the warrior continued to carry the memory of his wife, knowing that her spirit would always be with him.